Hello, everyone. So welcome. We are excited to have you with us this evening, I should say. My name is Shamika Cameron. I'm the Director of Undergraduate Admission Recruitment here at Roger Williams. We're so thrilled, like I said, to have you joining us. Congratulations to you and your lovely students who've been accepted to RWU for the incoming fall. We so wish you could be with us on campus, but I think this is a close second, right? I mean, we've got some lovely views behind us. I see that I've got some views and some of our other panelists have got some views for you. So as I was saying earlier, hopefully if you haven't been to campus yet, you get a slice of what it's really like here at beautiful Roger Williams. So before I get our panelists to introduce themselves to you, we're going to go through some quick housekeeping tips. All right. So very quickly, just so you know, we are going to be recording today's session to allow folks to see it, right? If you see it again. So if you decide that you, maybe there's a question or something that was asked and you really want to remember what was said, we're going to be posting it on the website. And then of course, we want to make sure it's available for those who aren't here to join us this evening. So the session will be recorded. And with that being said, we have everybody muted, and that includes both audio and video. And that's going to allow a lot of clarity, right? So as folks are speaking and as we're doing the recording, hopefully that will minimize any kind of background noise or random images across the screen. And so for that purpose, like I said, audio and video has been muted for everybody but the panelists and myself. The last thing is that the chat feature has been disabled. And we will be taking questions for tonight's program via the Q&A feature. So please do go ahead and use that. We will do our best to get through all of the questions that we receive. I will let you know that we received a number of questions beforehand as well. And it looks like a lot of folks are kind of thinking a lot of the same things. So we'll do our best to get through those questions. And it might be that a question is asked and we think it's good for us to do some personal follow-up. So in those cases, we may reach out to you individually to answer a question offline. But with that being said, we are going to get started. So as I said, my name is Shamika Cameron. I'm the Director of Undergraduate Admission Recruitment here at Roger Williams. And I am fortunate to be joined by our RWU leadership team, or members of our RWU leadership team this evening, beginning with our president and our chief of staff, and finally our Associate Vice President for Enrollment Management and Marketing. So I am going to turn it over to them, starting with President Miaulis, and ask them to introduce themselves to you all. President Miaulis?
Yes, am I on? I cannot.
You are on.
Hello, and welcome everyone. I wish I could welcome you to our wonderful campus here, the beautiful campus. Next year, I'll be a sophomore. Actually, this year I'm a freshman. This is my first year at Roger Williams University. And it has been started as a fabulous year. Now it's a challenging year because of the situation. I'm sure you face similar challenges at your homes and at your workplaces. I spent the first two parts of my career, one at Tufts University, where I was Dean of Engineering, and the other one at the Museum of Science in Boston, where I was President Director. And I stayed 16 years in both places. And the plan was for me to take a break when I finished the museum. But Roger Williams approached me for the presidency, and I fell in love with the place right away. And one of the things that I appreciated the most and liked the most is the special care that the faculty and staff take of the students. I have been a faculty at Tufts, and I have been a trustee at other universities. So I know higher education very well. I have never seen anything, any university that takes better care of students than Roger Williams University. And just to give you an idea, we have a Parents Advisory Council here at Roger Williams, and more than half of its members are parents of alums. Their children have graduated from Roger Williams, and these parents felt so indebted of what a good job we did for the children, for their children, their students, that they stayed on, and they have been great supporters of the university. It's a place that, especially in these difficult times when you are concerned and worried what's going to happen next semester, we will take very good care of your students. We are planning different contingency plans, anything from, of course, welcoming all students here on campus, and then different options, hybrid options, and if some students are here, some not. And we want to make sure that everyone that will be part of the Roger Williams community as a student will experience Roger Williams in as good way as possible, either in person here or online.
And I'll go next. I'm Brian Williams, no relation to Roger Williams. We've checked back in our lineage and there's no connection there at all. But I serve as the chief of staff with President Mialis and part of the president's cabinet. I work with a lot of our enrollment efforts with the team, marketing and strategic planning. And as a chief of staff, one of the key responsibilities is other duties as assigned. And recently that's been all things COVID-19. So I know there will be lots of questions, as Giannis just suggested, about the pandemic, about what will happen in the fall. And we know those are important questions for you to choose a college. I have 2 college-age sons myself. I've gone through the college process as an admissions professional for 26 years, but then in my house, which is a very different experience over the last 3 years with 2 sons who are a college junior and a college freshman. So I know the decision-making process you're in, and think a lot about how I might have made decisions if my son was a senior this year. And I'm glad to reflect on that and share some of those remarks and help answer questions about all things Roger Williams for you all in the time we're together. So thanks for being with us, and look forward to this time with you.
And good evening, everyone. My name is Amy Tiberio, Associate Vice President for Enrollment Management and Marketing. So glad to see so many of you on this session with us tonight. One of the things that we've been trying to do really well in the admission office is to listen to your students and to you all, and to hear what your needs are and how we can best serve you during this time. It's such a critical decision-making time for families, and without the ability to join us on campus, it makes it interesting for all of us. And so hearing directly from you, understanding what you need to learn from us has been critical. And this will be our opportunity to answer all of those questions that we know that you have on your minds. So we appreciate you being part of this. I've been at Roger Williams for about 5 years now and absolutely love the community. It's a wonderful group of people who truly care about the students. And we have absolutely fantastic and impressive students and graduates. I think it's a great place, and I love being there, and I hope you all will get that feeling from us as well. So we're excited to be able to be with you this evening.
Thank you, everyone, for introducing yourselves. As Amy shared, we've definitely been listening to you all. And as I shared earlier, we received some questions in advance. And so we're going to start with those. And you know, depending on where the conversation goes, there might be some other ones that we pick up here, or there will be some other ones that we weave in here as appropriate. So to start off with, the first question we're going to take is, how's online learning working out as students have FaceTime with instructors? And do class meetings online have a consistent schedule? So basically, how's online working out right now in this COVID age, and what are the plans for the fall?
I can take this. So the whole thing came pretty much as a surprise to everyone. So we had the spring break, and things had started right before spring break. So we decided that we would not open the campus for the week after spring break. And we asked our faculty within 2 weeks to convert all their courses, including laboratory and studio courses, on online. And it's amazing how there were over 1,500 courses and labs transformed online in 2 weeks. And things have been going pretty well. There were some without some minor glitches that we had. Everything has worked out pretty smoothly. Both our students and our faculty have adapted pretty well into this new way of instruction. And actually now we're in the process of assessing both the technology effectiveness of doing things online and the pedagogy elements. And we're going to retool our faculty in case we do have to do some things online to deliver the curriculum even better.
Brian, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would just add an actual example. We just in the last couple of weeks made the decision, because of circumstances that our summer classes would be 100% online. And there's great opportunities for students to take classes, but our residential classes for the summer, we converted. The faculty who are teaching this spring are looking forward to the summer classes online to reinforce what the president just said. They've looked and said, I now know how to do this, and I'll add a course into the summer schedule. We're adding new courses to our summer schedule daily right now because faculty are really embracing it as best as they can, and they're learning new ways to do things, and they're adapting, just the way students are adapting to remote learning, and they didn't sign up for that when they started the spring semester. Faculty have adapted and want to go deeper and want to do more. We have a great instructional design team that provides tools, opportunities. A faculty member has a challenge, they can have a tutorial and training. So it's really been a time where that community has really come together in an incredible way. And I'd love to also give a shout out to our library. My wife is a librarian. The ability for faculty and our library to shift from a textbook to an online resource that's free that students can access at home, and really be nimble when students were home for spring break and might not have been able to come back to campus. There was a great amount of adaptation to readings and support and the research that students needed to do. And our library, as well as the faculty, they all just moved in really incredible ways in that short amount of time. And so it's just been really proud to show what our faculty have done. It's a great part of the community that we've really been able to see.
And in addition to the academic part of switching online, student life switched online too, as much as possible. And we're doing even better planning in case we need to do online in the future. We had excellent counseling center online sessions, both one-on-one and group sessions. And a lot of student services, affinity groups continue functioning online. Of course, it's not the same as being in person, but we preserved the greatness of the Roger Williams community online, not only in the academic areas, but also in the social areas as well.
What is the hands-on experience like for classes like oceanography, marine biology? How are they being handled online?
Of course, it's not the same thing as touching a starfish if you're online. And nonetheless, our faculty have done a wonderful job on doing demonstrations, live demonstration or tape demonstrations of laboratories. And they have worked pretty nicely. It's amazing, even in architecture, how we hold architectural studios online that have been very effective. Actually, I've personally been very surprised how quickly things were adapted and how effective they have been online with very few exceptions. And of course, now we have experience of one semester doing this. Hopefully we won't have to go through this for long, but nonetheless, we want to be prepared to deliver the curriculum any way possible, preferably in person, but then online or in a hybrid mode as well.
Thank you. And what's going to be the timeline for figuring out when or if we will be online in the fall? Is there a specific deadline for making this decision?
We are hoping, and again, it's your guess is as good as our guess. We're hoping to make a decision like that sometime in July.
And Shamika, I'm glad to add to that. I'm one of two of the representatives for Roger Williams that's on a weekly phone call with the Rhode Island Department of Health. We're spending an extensive amount of time right now looking at what a healthy and safe opening of the university can be. And we're coordinating with the state, and we're also coordinating with all the other institutions of higher ed in the state of Rhode Island. So we're looking at every condition that allows a safe return to campus. And I stress right now, the state and the governor for Rhode Island, as well as the Department of Health, are looking at conditions to reopen safely for universities rather than a calendar date. So we are spending a lot of our time understanding questions about social distancing. What will it mean for our dining halls and the safety of our students for eating, for being in residence with each other, for classes and space in classes and social distancing. Roger Williams is fortunate. The largest classes we teach are under 50 people. We don't teach any classes that are large lecture hall classes for students. So we're in a position as a medium-sized institution, that we're not going to have these complicated 300, 400, 500 person lectures to think how we deliver in person. We're fortunate in our size to be able to think about things and move with the state and the state requirements, thinking about testing, things like contact tracing, and the social distancing pieces. So weekly, we are getting that information. We will reach a point in the summer, and with choosing Roger Williams, I would just add, we will communicate very clearly through orientations and virtual sessions and email and Facebook with you all when we keep learning new information, when we can say this is the day where we're deciding what will happen with the fall. I don't think any university in the country has said this is what is officially happening with the fall. We are all exploring it, and we're learning from other universities and moving with our state to make sure our conditions, and we're in a condition and control to reopen on time. And to the extent that we are able to, we will keep pushing in that direction. That's everybody's hope.
Thank you, Brian. And as a follow-up to that, as you look to the fall and what the courses can look like, whether it's the course schedule, course availability, what are you thinking that those schedules will look like for that online model if we're not able to return to campus in the fall?
Well, the course availability will not be affected. We're planning on offering all the courses that are being listed, and students will be able to register through our registration through the orientation sessions we're going to have. Now, the schedule, we are considering either keeping the semester as it is now, a 15-week semester, or chopping it up into different sections. But that will not affect the availability of courses. So if students enroll to the university, they'll be able to take the courses that we have listed.
Thank you. And President Mialis referred to orientation. We have a question here about summer orientation. Given the fact that there's so many unknowns, what are the plans for summer orientation, and when will folks be getting information about those dates?
Yes, well, we have
that they've already signed up for, I should say.
Yeah, we have a good plan in place. We're going to have the orientations that you signed already. Your sons and daughters signed up. They will be held on these days. Going to be virtual orientations. So we'll be delivering orientations in a virtual form, and then we have a very flexible way for students to be registered with getting in touch with their advisors online as groups and one-on-one. And then if hopefully the campus opens up, we're going to have an August in-person orientation as well, with a move-in the day that we have announced. And it's already in the schedule. I believe it's August, let's see, it would be Saturday, August 29th. With a move-in, we're going to have a convocation, which is a wonderful ceremony. Then we'll ask the parents to hug, or guardians to hug their sons, daughters, or boys and girls, or men or women, and then let them start their in-person orientation, which will take place Sunday the 30th of August and Monday the 31st. And then classes will be starting on Wednesday, September 2nd.
Thank you for that. As we look towards the summer, we don't know what the restrictions are and how long the restrictions will last for current face-to-face meetings. But are there any online courses or programs that incoming freshman students can participate in this summer in order to receive credit toward their degree?
Definitely. If you go to Roger Williams summer sessions online, the entire schedule for students is available. When we have some sort of virtual orientation session in June, advisors will definitely talk about summer options for you. It's something I definitely encourage to explore. I was actually in a meeting today about the summer schedule, and we are looking at a reduced summer rate for incoming students. That might be something that we talk about in the days ahead that allow you to start to think about courses in the summer. I highly recommend it from one experience point. The transition to online courses, I think we did very well and smoothly the way that Giannis described. But taking 5 online courses in one semester can be something that's a little overwhelming. And based on the circumstances that happen over the months ahead, taking an online course that is a Roger Williams course that's going to count towards your Roger Williams credit load and count towards your degree. Doing something in the summer to get used to online learning that the way we're teaching it, if you haven't done that in high school before, will ease you into the reality if we have online courses in the fall in some way. So I highly recommend it as a trial, as something that counts towards your degree, and could be something that lightens a first semester transition and course load for an incoming student in a creative way. So definitely look at summer with us preferably, but it can be somewhere else and work with an advisor for transfer credit just as easily.
Is our enrollment deadline still June 1st?
I'm sure I can take that one. Yeah, so June 1st is still the current deadline, and that had been extended from May 1st. We did that pretty quickly when we realized that that the spring wasn't going to look quite the same, to give you all some more time to make a decision, to make sure that you were able to do all the research that you needed to do. But that being said, you know, we're always very flexible. We always work very individually with families. So any concerns that you have, just don't ever hesitate to reach out to us in the admission office, and we'll do our best to work with you and address those concerns. But right now, June 1st, you can let us know if you're planning to enroll by filling out the enrollment reservation form, and then you can make your actual deposit by June 1st. But we'd love to know as early as you know if you're planning to be joining us, so that we can start inviting your students into some of our online communities for enrolling students.
Thank you for that, Amy. And just to follow up to that, what happens if students commit now and then school is canceled until January or later?
So I'll reflect on that a little. I don't think, I would just use a word different than cancel. Online learning and learning and teaching will happen this fall. So choosing Roger Williams is a choice that you can make, and there will be learning that happens. We have contingencies and scenarios that the president talked about that our team is working on, that if we are able to start in person, we will. The spring showed us that we could convert to online if there was a surge, and we're preparing those scenarios if we needed to have a move out experience again. And we're hoping that that doesn't happen with the safety measures we put in place. But there's other options we are looking at. Our University College campus is fully online. Beyond the 4,000 students in Bristol, Roger Williams has over 3,000 undergraduate, full-time, part-time certificate earning students through our campus and through our Bristol operations and our Providence operations as a campus. So there are many different pathways to think about Roger Williams this fall, that none of those are canceled. We may switch the format of how things are delivered, but we're here, we'll be in business, and choosing a university is going to allow you to adapt. I'm sure we will spend a lot more time at orientation through the summer and in the fall, preparing students for any scenario that might happen. That was one thing we weren't able to do in the spring. No one expected that this was going to happen. But to be prepared as a campus, it's now in our memory to think about this and how we orient students to campus. The contingencies of what they need to think about as students is definitely something that you as parents and students will spend time talking about in June, July, and August for the students that are enrolling.
And Ryan, if we do move online, what implications are there for tuition, room and board charges?
We're looking at that now, and it's hard to answer. We did not make a shift this spring. I don't think I saw many universities that reduced tuition because we were more than halfway through the semester already, and things were well underway. In the event that any campus, and we're talking a hypothetical, Shamika, to answer your question,
Mm-hmm.
If we knew we were going into the entire semester online, and there were different options families were thinking about, or students were thinking about, part-time versus full-time enrollment in an online environment, and then joining us in person in the spring, or we're looking at mini semesters within the semester, which Giannis suggested a moment ago, where maybe we can do 2 8-week semesters, 8-week mini semesters in the fall. So tuition might look very different. We're doing a lot of different creative modeling right now. And we're using April, what's left of it, as well as all of May, to talk through all the different scenarios that might happen. And we will share all of those with families, our current students, as well as our incoming students, as those plans become concrete options for families, to give you some control over what you're comfortable with and not just what the university is doing. We definitely realize at this time, some families are concerned what we're going to do. We are trying to look at options for families that are things that you are also comfortable doing at this time. So online options that we have, in-person options that we have, or blending them together some way. There's some incredibly talented people that work at the university that are really thinking about all the scenarios we might face and having options to meet any of them that we can do as a community.
If we do, if we are able to open residence halls, are there plans or there contingency plans for rethinking what the living situation looks like perhaps having singles or reducing the number of multiple occupancy rooms, perhaps like quads or anything like that?
Yes, we're looking through everything, and also we are waiting for guidance from the state and the regulations from the state on this. But these are one of the many things that we're looking at as contingency plans evolve for the fall.
Thank you. Given the current situation, are there additional financial aid dollars that are available for students who are wanting to deposit and be at the institution?
Amy or Brian?
I can take that one. Sure. So we always review those requests on a case-by-case basis and look at the individual family situation. So if I encourage you to reach out directly to us or to the financial aid counselor and initiate a conversation. And we have a committee of folks that takes a look at individual requests to determine whether there's anything that we can do. If there's adjustments that can be made to the information on your FAFSA, we'll explore all those opportunities and then follow up with you. But that's always looked at on an individual basis by the family situation.
Thank you. And then we have a number of questions about deferring and if there will be an opportunity given to families to allow them to defer if we're depending what the situation looks like in the fall. So if we do not go fully on campus in the fall.
So we've always had a policy where we've allowed students to defer their enrollment for a semester or a year if they're planning to take that time off. So they would be able to do that after they've already committed and sent in their enrollment deposit. Then they could decide to defer. In those cases, they're not able to enroll at another institution. It would be really just taking that time off from beginning college. But in order to do that, we would just have to have you make the enrollment deposit by the deadline by June 1st, and then you can get in touch with us about initiating that process to do that enrollment deferral.
And would there be any financial aid or scholarship implications?
So if you do an enrollment deferral, then your financial aid package does remain. But whenever you start, you'll be starting with whatever the tuition and room and board fees are for that particular academic year that you're beginning with us.
Thank you. Are there alternative plans that have been thought of for fall sports?
One of the things that's special about Roger Williams, and I realized that as I was visiting parents and alums during my first year now, is how important sports are for the students. And about half of the alums I met, the first thing they would mention is sports at Roger Williams. So we are planning on, as much as we're allowed by the state and federal policies, to continue sports. But then again, it will depend on how things go.
Thank you. And it looks like we have some folks here who are just looking for clarification on how some of the semester options that we're thinking about would work. So one question we have is, if you have 2 mini-mesters that equal 1 full semester, does that mean a student who would, what does that mean for a student who would normally take 5 classes in a semester? Will they be in 2 classes in 1 mini semester and then 3 classes in the next mini semester?
We're in the process of designing this, and because all this is new to us as well. The end result is that at the end of the regular traditional semester time, the student will be able to fulfill all the course requirements that they would take during a regular in-residence semester.
Thank you. And just some more questions around deferring. So if somebody defers, will that person get an advisor that helps them to plan for their enrolling in the spring, enrollment in the spring?
So I'll take that. The general deferral process we've had in the past has been one pre-pandemic, and something that students might choose to do, change in family circumstances, or their planning, or something that happens that they look to start in January or sometimes to the following year. Definitely, I would say we can connect you with advisors on the campus. But what I wanted to share is that some of the models that we're looking at of changing the residential experience, or having options to the residential experience, we're also thinking about what someone's goals are in deferring. So we would love to talk with the families that are even thinking about that, because in deferring to January, as an example, an online course or 2 in the summer or the fall, or if you're gaining work experience and you're gaining leadership skills, again, our University College campus, we offer micro-credentials, we offer different certificates. There's ways to keep your learning going, even if you're choosing to defer an in-person experience because of safety reasons. So if there's a local service gap semester you're thinking about, or wanting to do volunteer work for a semester and help your local economy before things change, and come here in January and assess the safety before you choose us, we want to work with you through that. It's who we are. It's what we're passionate about. So you can call our office, you can work with advisors, and we will help you through that process to understand why you might be wanting to defer, and then kind of work you through it. So the practical pieces of your financial aid award staying intact in January, the way that it was in September, or if your plans are thinking a year ahead, how we can think about that year and still confer credit, still maybe think about guiding you through that experience in some way. That's something that we're just glad to do, and just passionate about helping people through that.
And how often will RWU communicate with parents about its plans before the June deadline, before the June enrollment deadline?
So the president asks me to do that all the time. He says, we haven't sent out a message soon. Can we make sure we push something out to the community? We have a number of different web resources that I can point you to, as well as parent Facebook groups that the admissions team is managing right now. We'll communicate across a number of methods for you through the process. Some of our campus communications are weekly right now. And I think for students who are depositing and thinking about things through the summer, you'll probably see that type of a pattern of communication. And it might be things about, we learn new insight about fall sports, so we'll send a communication. There may be a change to the housing selection process as we make decisions about housing, and we'll communicate that with you. So we will have regular communications. We know how important the college decision is. For any parents on the line that this is your first child or your only child going through the admissions process, we know in a normal time, communication is critical. This year, it's going to be even more important for us to communicate. So to the extent we need to do sessions like this, we can bring different members of the campus community in with you. Giannis, I don't even want to count how many presidential chats and Zoom sessions you've done, but we're here to do that for you. And if there's a need for it, we'll schedule it. We can bring the director of housing to do it. We are planning to do something related to billing and tuition payment plan options in the absence of an in-person orientation. So all the pieces that you need as a family, we can really look at guiding you through this process of virtual orientation, being a process over the summer, which means communicating with you regularly over the summer rather than one day full of virtual sessions and then that's all we do until August. We know you need to hear from us, and we're committed to that.
And Brian, as you mentioned Zoom, I'm going to switch gears and ask about the technology for a bit because that question was presented to us.
Sure.
So what specific technology and online platforms are professors using now? And are they using the same technologies consistently across the board?
Sure. So I can answer on a handful of them. There is not one consistent platform because every professor finds a tool that they're comfortable with that engages their students, that works for the type of learning that they do. Zoom is being used by some of our faculty. Microsoft Teams is being used by others. Our online learning platform is called Bridges. Since we have bridges off of our campus, it was a great name to brand it. For those that may know it, underlying it's called Sakai. So it's an open learning platform for online learning. So there are ways to have online discussions, ways to embed videos for things, ways to work in collaborative teams. Our music classes are using different software. Our performance and our dance classes are doing creative things and still engaged. So there's a question about the marine science classes earlier. Every professor is finding the tools that work for them. And so there isn't one set way to do that. And we see some faculty that have shifted to one lecture a week or recording a video and then having one-on-one discussions with their students through the course of the week. Others that are teaching in real time and recording it. So if a student can't see it at that moment, enjoying the actual class time, they can join, later that night and watch something at a different time. So I think the classes are really nimble, and there isn't one way to do it just the same way that no two professors when they're in person teach a class the same way. Technology and remote learning is just the same thing. They're using the tools that work for finance classes, for architecture studio classes, for poetry, or for dance and performance. Our faculty are really thinking in some interesting ways and different ways that honor their discipline and what they're trying to accomplish in the classroom.
Thanks, Brian. If someone takes and finishes a summer class online and then decides that online classes are not for them, can they defer their fall enrollment until campus classes resume?
Seeing if Amy's going to unmute on that.
Yeah. I can take that. So with the enrollment deferrals, those are done really anytime between the enrollment deposit is made and prior to the fall semester beginning. So as Brian mentioned earlier, that's an opportunity, I think, to have a conversation about, what opportunities exist for that student. If the online learning wasn't a good fit for them, then let's have a conversation about what the fall semester can look like, whether deferral makes sense, or perhaps there's another opportunity to be working with us in some sort of guided fashion. But yes, up until the beginning of the fall semester, you'll have that opportunity to do that before officially enrolling with us or officially matriculating with us at that point.
Thank you. Shifting gears a little bit, what do you believe are the strengths of RWU?
Well, I can go on and on that because as I mentioned in the beginning, I was an incoming employee at Roger Williams, so I looked at everything. So I'll tell you a little bit about my story. When the university approached me, I decided to come incognito and take some campus tours while pretending I'm a prospective parent, because I wanted to see the university from incoming students' point of view. And the first thing that fascinated me, of course, is the beauty of the campus. And this was in January, and now the campus is absolutely gorgeous. It was gorgeous even in January. But then meeting with the students, the tour guides, was very engaging. The enthusiasm of the tour guides was tremendous. And then I decided to come and have lunch, again, incognito, with students. And I went to the dining hall. And by the way, the food at Roger Williams is one of the best in the country. I think, you know, the top 10 in the country. It's incredible. So anyway, I went to the dining hall and sat down. I had 3 lunches at the same day because I wanted to meet different groups of students. And it was amazing how enthusiastic the students were about the faculty, about the staff, the sports, the athletics, the location. And these students did not know who I was, or they thought I was just a prospective parent. So the enthusiasm the students have was infectious. Then the other thing that intrigued me, again, I mentioned at the beginning, is the good care that the faculty and staff take of the students. The other thing that I found excellent was that there aren't that many schools in the country of that size, which is a medium-sized school where you pretty much know your classmates, that have so many professional schools and also a very strong liberal arts school as well. It's a place where you can take courses in professional courses, as well as great courses in philosophy, in writing, and music, dance. You cannot find that in a school of this size very easily. And we have excellent faculty, and because we don't have a large graduate program, faculty that engage in scholarship and research engage undergraduates because they have no choice pretty much. These are the students that present papers in national and international conferences and write journal papers as well. So all these are wonderful elements of Roger Williams. And one other area that we're very strong is civic scholarship, engaging students with the community to solve real problems. It's a very big strength of the university, and a lot of our students attribute a lot of what they did further on in their careers on that civic scholarship elements they had here at Roger Williams.
I'll build on that and say the thing that really sets us apart is the students themselves that come to the university. I'm constantly amazed by what our students do and who they are. When I was first looking to come and join the university a couple of years ago, every student I met, it was like, tell me about yourself. It's like, well, I'm a construction management major and a Spanish minor. What are you doing? I'm a political science major with double minors in marine biology and chemistry. The sense of the school and the options we have here play out for our students. And the students have a sense of who they want to be, but also how they're going to do their work. So you start talking to Roger Williams students and it's like, why are you combining construction management and Spanish? It's like, well, I'm passionate about doing development in Latin America. I did a study abroad program in the Dominican Republic, and I want to go and I want to help build there. So I want to be a professional and I want to make a difference. And you talk to someone else in marine biology and political science, it's like, what are you thinking there? It's like, I care about public policy. I'm worried about our oceans. I'm worried about sea level rise, and I want to make a difference. So I'm thinking about law school, and I really love marine bio, but I don't want to be a biologist for the rest of my life. But I understand the science. I can write research and I can write public policy analysis now. Student after student at Roger Williams, that blending is what you're going to see. That's the strength of a school of architecture, a school of engineering, a school of business, a school of social and natural science, a school of justice studies. That blending is really what our size and the structure of the university really allows our students. And you see that student after student after student across the campus. And it's just really inspiring to be a part of that and to help shape the direction of where they're going to go.
And I'll just add one other thing that I think is related to that is that we at Roger Williams, we are always encouraging students to step outside of their comfort zone and to grow and to take risks. But because of who we are and our personalized approach, we have the support and we have all of the advising and mentorship in place so that students feel confident doing that. So I think the transformation that they experience, the growth that they experience throughout their time is really testament to those opportunities, but also the support that they have to allow them to take that on with confidence.
Thanks, everyone. Now, for the flip side, what areas need to be improved at RWU?
Well, that's an interesting question. as I mentioned, their physical presence is just beautiful. I would say that we're a new university, relatively new. So we don't have the alumni depth that some of the older schools have. And so increasing the culture of philanthropy at the school would be something that we're striving toward. And it is changing. That's an element that I try to bring into the university. And even our graduating class, the class of 2020, they came up with a concept of creating a scholarship that everybody gives $20.20 to fund a scholarship for an incoming freshman, which I think was wonderful. So that's an area that I think we need to improve, but it's an area that all new universities, relatively new universities, need to improve.
When I think about it, the one thing I might think we could do better is connect with the city of Providence even more than we do now. You know, our primary campus, the one behind me, Bristol, Rhode Island on the waterfront, and we're really connected civic scholarship and engagement the way that the president talked about a moment ago. And are connected from there down and back to Newport, Rhode Island, and in Bristol itself, and parks and bike paths for our students in really great ways. We have a Providence campus, which is used really well by our MBA program and by our law school. You know, we're running a pro bono clinic out of our law school in the city of Providence and doing some amazing things. The undergraduate experience is what I would say we could do just as much, expand even more the internship opportunities and really be creative about our Providence and Bristol footprints as a campus. We've talked about that a lot as a strategic planning opportunity for us. That's just something that what we could do better. I think it's a move it from good to great opportunity for us, that we're doing it well, but there's just so much more that we could be offering our students in this next stretch. And as we're thinking about coming out of rebuilding an economy, the city is going to need interns, college students, new job opportunities for students, and we're ready to be dialing deeply into those things. And that's the thing that we're ready to do better.
Thanks, Brian. So we have a question here that assumes that there will be some implications to our enrollment due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And the question specifically is, how is Roger Williams poised to handle a change in enrollment?
Brian, you want to take this?
Sure. So I will be the ever optimist and say, by changing in enrollment, you mean a 10% growth because we're doing great and we're doing wonderful things. But no, Roger Williams has faced challenges and circumstances in its past, not just from an enrollment end, but I think we are a very resilient campus. Anything that this institution or circumstance it's faced, it has met that challenge and adapted. And I think the sense of a drop in enrollment is something we would respond to. Higher ed has proved it can do that over time. I have a master's degree in higher ed administration, and you look over the time of higher ed shrunk during the wars in this country and were pretty much decimated, and enrollment went down for the Vietnam War, but it resurged back, and you had the GI Bill and different movements and supports as things move along. Industry-wide, there's going to be great things that come from this. From us, a decline in enrollment is going to, if that happens, is going to shift us to being more creative and more nimble, looking at new opportunities to partner with corporations and internships and opportunities for our students. And as we know, a decline in enrollment in one semester isn't affecting the entire whole of the university. We have 4 classes of students enrolled, a law school, graduate programs that are going to grow, students that go to work, but then may work on micro-credentials and certificates with us. We're always opening new pathways for our students as an institution. We're looking at non-tuition opportunities as an institution all the time. We are seeing really positive signs that we're going to be as resilient through this stretch as I can. May 1st and June 1st enrollment deadlines, we can't tell you with a crystal ball what the freshman class is going to look like, but I can tell you we've gone through our entire housing process for our returning students, and we've gone through our registration process for our students. We are within 1% of our normal registration from spring semester to fall semester at the current time. So we're not seeing large signs in our current student body that they're not intending to return. And I think that's just one sign of indication that I can share on this call that we're not seeing a large retrenchment in any of the things that we kind of tend to measure and look at to see what might happen from an enrollment shift in some sort. But if it happens, we're ready.
And actually, that's an indication of how well our online programs worked last semester, because we have almost 100% of our current students registering for next semester as well, when there's still uncertainty if we're going to be in person or online.
Thank you. Next question. In the past, RWU has offered tuition freeze through the 4 years. Is this something the student is still offering or considering?
No, we changed the model, because what we found out is if you freeze tuition, we could not have investment in new programs, and the financial benefit to the family or the student was not worth our inability because of that to create new programs. So we stopped that, but we are committed to be one of the most affordable schools of our kind in the country, and we're still one of the most affordable schools. But by having modest increases in tuition, we'll be able to continue offering innovative programs and adding to the programs.
And I'll add, when we made this shift away from the tuition freeze program, we put close to $5 or $6 million into our financial aid budget at that same transition, because as we knew tuition was increasing, we adjusted our room and board costs. We eliminated some of our additional semester fees and streamlined things as best as we could. And you should all be aware from some of our admissions materials, we have an academic excellence grant that we awarded for returning students. So students that are basically making Dean's List at the university, there's a $1,000 grant that is added to their financial aid award for the second year, then again can be added for the third and fourth year as students perform well at the institution. So we knew as we were raising tuition, there are opportunities to offset that with additional aid. So moving away from the frozen tuition and the frozen financial aid model, this increment is there. The other piece to just remind or share with you, and it's a comparison to other schools, we don't take away institutional aid in years 2 through 4. So the grant aid and the scholarship aid that you start with will stay with you through your time at Roger Williams. We eliminated grade point average as a requirement for returning student scholarships. We value the scholarship we gave you as recognizing what you did in high school, not how you're doing at our school. So if you are doing well and there's no pressure to say you must have a 3.0 or you lose your dean's scholarship or pressure to perform. We want you to put the pressure on yourself to perform well, but that scholarship aid is really intact for families. So we shifted, basically, it's easy to say, from frozen tuition to frozen aid to make sure that the aid stays a key planning thing for families when we made that change.
Thanks, Brian. Are there federal funds that RWU will receive because of the COVID-19 CARES Act, and how are those funds going to be used, if so?
Yes, we have received and we will receive funds, and there are very strict guidelines by the federal government. So we'll be receiving about $2.6 million, and now we are trying to figure out how to allocate them based on the federal guidelines. It's not very discretionary how we would do that.
Thank you. A question here about how student support is structured now that everything is online. So can somebody speak to how extra help is being offered, particularly tutoring services, while everything is happening online?
Yes, we have our whole support system of tutors, student tutors, faculty advisors, special advisors we have, especially of students that are not doing well. It's all functioning 100% like it would function in person. All these services are running full speed, along with counseling centers and services on student life issues.
Thank you. And we've received a number of questions surrounding advisors and when folks will be assigned their advisor and when they'll get information about AP credit. So I'm wondering if somebody can just talk through the timeline for students receiving an advisor and getting that information about making their course selection and getting those credits that they've acquired previously.
Once you give us a deposit and we know you're coming, you're going to get a full schedule on orientation. And the orientation elements that we'll offer this year online and then in person in August, when hopefully everybody will be back on campus, are exactly the same as we had with the in-person orientation. So everybody will have an advisor, there will be registration, and everything will be exactly the same as it was in person.
And to speak to the AP credits, I think that was the other part of the question. If anyone has any advanced placement, if you've taken the exams and you want to submit those for credit, also international baccalaureate or any courses that you've taken in your secondary school that have earned you college credit, you just need to send those exam results or the transcripts from the college to our registrar's office, and they'll assess them for transfer credit. And then that can be taken into consideration when your courses for the fall semester are put together, so that you're not registered for anything that you got credit for. If that credit comes in after you've already registered, then we'll just adjust the schedule accordingly.
Thank you. We've heard that the Bristol campus is looking to expand the physical footprint through acquiring surrounding land. Is that true?
The Board of Trustees enabled us to buy an adjacent property to the college, which is a beautiful piece of land across the university, but this is for future use. Right now, the current land enables us to fully fulfill all of the needs. We're in the process of completing a master plan for the campus, which will enable us to replace some of the older buildings and renovate things. And we're in the midst of doing this. But we don't have any plans of purchasing any bigger pieces of property.
Thank you. What did RWU offer currently enrolled on-campus students as a credit for room and board this spring?
Or I can answer that one. So we, from the time spring break happened and then students did not return for break, and then we decided to stay remote for the rest of the semester, that total period is about 8.5 weeks. So we are just this week into next week finalizing the sense of the commitments we needed to make to set up student credit balances and or refunds for our graduating seniors for that amount of time. So we did it as a proration of the room and board that they paid into the institution. It equates to just about 50% of the spring semester charges. So that's just a simple high level answer. Students were here half the semester, so they ended up paying for half the semester. And we've credited those amounts to their student account that can be used towards the fall semester. A couple students have asked to use it to credit to take some classes online in the summer. So it's part of their student account balance that is money that we turned back to students because of the closure.
Thank you, Brian. Are there recommended computers or computer specs that students should have? Is there a lot of sales going on right now? And are there requirements for different majors? Should they get computers? So folks want to know, should they stock up on something in particular while the prices are low?
Yeah, so this is definitely something from thinking now about it as high school graduation presents or orientation that we can definitely talk through. My answer is going to be very sort of gray. The answer to what specs you need to come into the university with are really going to vary based on your major. I would personally give different advice to an English major than an architect or an engineer versus a biology major. So there are different requirements that may be in thinking about some of our more technology focused majors may have different machine requirements for the work or the software systems they're going to download. Our graphic design and our marketing majors, our comm majors are going to be more Mac intensive. So we are a campus that's probably a little bit more PC based than Mac, but we support Mac labs on our campus in the architecture school, as well as for our graphic design and our comm majors for the graphic and the Adobe intensive suites that they need to work on. So we see just as many students with PC as we do Mac. There are a couple things that are different based on the major that you can email me offline. I'm a tech fan, so I'm glad to help anybody answer that more offline. But it does change a little major to major, and there isn't one. The university only supports Mac. The university only supports a PC-based computer or laptop type of a mandate from the institution. I'm on a Mac right now, so it's super nimble for what you're looking to do with a couple asterisks based on the major.
And Brian, there's a webpage on our website that gives
is.
the specs, and it lists which majors and things like that. So I'm going to put the link to that in the chat right now.
Oh, great.
If you go to our information technology section on our website, it's the hardware standards and recommendations for new students, and it gives all the details for Apple, Dell, Samsung, and and those majors and the specifics that you mentioned, the nuances there.
Great.
Is the housing, we have a couple questions about housing. Is the housing portal open for freshmen yet? And can somebody please confirm the fall move-in dates?
So
The
housing,
right now is planned for, as I mentioned, for Saturday, August 29th. And you'll get more information about it. And we'll start in the morning. And we hope that the parents or guardians stay on for the convocation and then hug their students goodbye so they could start their orientation. And for the other part of the question, Amy could probably answer it.
yeah, so the housing selection for new students, that process has not started yet. That typically starts in May. We'll share information out about that as soon as possible. So once students have deposited, there will be a form that they'll fill out to engage in the housing process, and that will happen. And then students will be placed over the summer in their housing assignments.
If online learning is what happens in the fall, where will that online learning take place? Will it take place on campus or from home?
Well, if it's online learning, it would take place anywhere. So if we have a hybrid model with some students being on campus and some at home, everybody would be engaging in online learning and online support. So online learning this semester, almost everybody other than 14 students, they were at home. They were delivered. But there are possibilities given the situation that we may have some students on campus, some students home, and then could be a hybrid system. But the online delivery would be seamless whether somebody stays on campus or in Bristol community or at home.
Thank you. After online orientation takes place, how long after that does someone contact her to set up the fall schedule? And would a counselor contact her or be in touch with her again to get all that set up and get her AP credits accounted for? Or get AP credits accounted for in general?
So let me answer how we did it last summer and acknowledge that we don't have it officially answered, I think, for how this summer might work. But Amy Tiberio can build upon my answer because she's on the committee that's designing summer orientation. We know that our intent right now, in prior years, students would come for an overnight orientation session, have parent and student sessions together and apart on day one, meet with their academic advisors on day one and think about their course schedule, how serious they were about their major, what minors they might be thinking about, do activities overnight, wake up the next morning and leave orientation in June with their academic schedule for the fall in hand. So the question that you have, if you were asking it last year, that would be your answer. How long after would you actually get your schedule? It would be at orientation would be my answer. When we're now thinking about orientation and parts of it being virtual until it can be in person, virtual advising, virtual orientation, virtual financial aid and billing questions, virtual housing questions that you have, I think we're going to imagine pieces and workshop sessions to help answer the questions that you need as you're going to need them through the summer. And absolutely registration and getting advising going, all those things go hand in hand to have placement testing in place to know what credit is in. So if you don't need to take a foundational writing class, you're placing out of that. All those things are that June, July timeframe. And I think definitely, I don't have the answer for you today to say you would do your class schedule in June or early July at the current time, but I know it's something our current students register remotely, and orientation advisors and peer advisor students, as well as academic advisors, that's going to look in a really creative and great design way for what June, July, and early August are going to look like. And I think that group honestly has had one kickoff meeting. So Amy, if you want to share a little of the sneak preview for these folks of what that might look like, that'd be great.
Sure. There'll be an email coming your way shortly. I just wrote it today. We are taking the pieces of orientation that happen in June that are really critical and important for June and making sure that they still happen in a remote way. So course registration is one of those pieces that's planned for June. And that includes one-on-one meetings with advisors, as well as small group meetings with orientation advisors. So we're not going to expect students to be online for the entire day. Nobody has the bandwidth for that. So the amount of actual live, online time will be reduced, and then there'll be some asynchronous things that will happen, some recordings that students can watch, and then some additional meetings that can get set that complement those times when everyone is remote together. So that's plans to happen. The day one of orientation, there will be some live online things that will happen for the dates that students are registered for. And then some of those one-on-one meetings and advising will happen during day two or at a later time that's planned. So that's the thinking right now. And then some of the in-person components and the team building components will happen in August when we're able to be together physically. We're also very conscious that with the June 1 deposit deadline, the extension to June 1, we want to make sure that students have enough time to complete some of their placement testing and some of the things that need to happen prior to orientation. So we're going to be making arrangements to make sure that that can happen and that you have plenty of time to do that and you don't feel rushed in any way.
And one of the advantages we have because of the unfortunate situation is if you were coming in person in previous orientations, everything had to be done by the time you would leave campus. And now we could do the general thing online for everybody, but then take time to have more individualized advising in subsequent days. Before we had to finish everything while you're on campus. So that's a big plus, and you'll get much more personal attention and better advice because of the situation now.
And we have a question here about loans. Do we recommend any loan companies?
I'll take that one. There's not a specific one lender that we recommend or steer students towards another. We have a chart of different lenders and their rates and benefits that families can think of. Your first default is always the federal direct student loan programs when you apply for financial aid. So those have their set structured benefits for student loans, and those are sort of the first loans people think about. If you're thinking about student loans or parent loans beyond that, you can work with a local bank you're comfortable with. You can get a sheet of different lenders that our students commonly use from our financial aid team. And the one place I will point you to is, rather than a bank or a loan company, is to look at the Rhode Island Student Loan Authority. So RISLA, which is the nickname, and you can find them online. The state loan authority works a little differently than the federal loans do, but it's a Rhode Island state loan. And it's for any resident of the state of Rhode Island or anyone who has children going to school in the state of Rhode Island. So everyone on this call would qualify for that from how the Rhode Island State Loan Program is structured. And they have their own sense. It's one place to just make sure you're looking for different opportunities. They manage a listing of state scholarship programs, as well as a state loan program, which has some flexible repayment plans, has some interest rates and some different flexibility to it that you just might want to consider. So the normal banks, the normal cast of characters, we can send you that list, but I might call you and point you out towards RISLA as well. If the next question goes to one of our other panelists, I will add a link to RISLA in the chat section as well for anyone that wants to look there for that.
Thanks, Brian. We had a question come in, a couple questions about placement tests. Do the placement tests have to be completed on the same day? So for instance, if a student has to take multiple, or can they be completed on separate days? And if someone does decide to defer for a semester or a year, will they have to do the tests again at a later date? Before someone answers, I just want to share that I did put the link to the placement testing information on our website up in the chat.
My understanding for placement tests is that they do not all need to be taken at the same time. They can be done individually, and that they would not need to be redone in the case of a deferral, unless, I suppose, if a student, felt like they had done some work over the course of that time and, could place into a higher level. That's my understanding. But any really specific questions, we can always connect you directly with the office that administers those placement tests.
Thank you. And as I shared, I did put the placement testing information in the chat, and Angela Raymond's information will be there as well for folks to contact. If fall semester is online, is RWU thinking about moving or rethinking freshman traditional weeks of welcome and the other welcome activities so that the class still gets to experience these wonderful RWU events?
Yes, we have a whole team that is planning on, if we're not on campus, planning to have as many online activities to continue the traditions, the celebrations, and the get-togethers that we have now in creative ways. So that is, we have 8 committees that are working in parallel right now in academics and in finances and in student life to make sure that the Roger Williams experience would be as close to the real experience. Of course, being on our wonderful campus is unparalleled. And if you have not visited the campus, I know there are all sorts of restrictions, but if you can, and it's allowed by your state to do a drive through the campus, I highly recommend it. But nonetheless, we're planning to have a enhanced virtual presence in the social life of students and as good as we have in the academic life.
Thank you. For students involved in sports, how does staff support the workload?
Oh, I'd love to answer that one first. We focus on our students being student scholars and student athletes here. A great example I'd love to share is that the dean of our School of Engineering and Construction Management is one of the advisors and coaches for the club hockey team. So you have advocates all across the faculty for supporting students in their in and out of classroom experience. You'll see faculty that are at the sporting events for students and cheering them on, and that experience is right there. We are a small enough school, we're a Division III school, so the balance of where athletics and practice and participation fit in, it really does show itself in and out of the classroom in that spirit. You also know all of your practice schedules and your schedule commitments in advance of choosing a sport as well. So when you're choosing classes, you know when your practice times are. You're setting up your schedule to work with your season in some really flexible and nimble ways. So.
And as a follow-up to that, is it possible for a student to take 4 classes instead of 5?
Sure. There may be plenty of different reasons that I can think of that a student might do that. And, just from experience, I've seen some students that may be worried about the transition to college. So they take 4 instead of 5 to kind of have a lighter semester. I have a lot of experience seeing fall student athletes that may take 12 instead of 15 credits in their first semester to get a sense of being in season athlete and managing a course load. I've also seen some students who might come in the honors program and they're really talented students, but they're worried about taking 4 honors classes in their first semester. And if you have AP credit, you're still earning credit for that first semester, but could take 12 instead of 15 and just imagine things in a different way. Advisors will encourage that or talk to you about the pros and cons of it at orientation and all the advising that you'll get. And for every student I see that might take 4, there are those brave and daring students that take 6 classes in their first semester as well. It's all based on what a student is trying to accomplish and what their goals are. So 6 3-credit classes is possible. Students who know they want to get a double major by the time they graduate. 4 classes and you're working or getting an internship early in your freshman year. There's so many different pathways through college where a lighter course load 1 semester and then doubling up and doing 6 in the spring. So many things to do and so many opportunities to think about. And advisors will help any student each step of the way with that.
We did get a couple questions about AP credits and how the credits are awarded. I did include the link to the course catalog, which is on our website, in the chat. And that gives information about what scores students need on the AP exams in order to get credit. But can someone just talk through the credit awarding process for the AP exams and AP credit?
Sure. The credit is awarded based on the AP exam score, and it depends upon the AP exam. So some exams, if you have a 3 or higher, you can get credit. Some are a 4 or higher, and I think the link that Shamika shared has all that information. And it gets submitted to our registrar's office, and then they take a look and see there are course equivalencies for each AP exam. And so you would earn the credit for that particular course equivalency. And depending on your major, it's going to factor into your degree program in different ways. So sometimes it might take the place of an elective, or depending on the courses that you're required to take. And that's where advisors are really going to sit down with you one-on-one, take a look at the credits that you're bringing in, take a look at your degree program and degree plan, and sort of let you know the best way to chart your path forward. But bringing in that advanced credit has typically allowed students the flexibility to add on a double major or a minor, or to think about internships and things like that. So it gives you that nice flexibility to add more opportunities into your 4 years.
We have a question that came in here. What is the plan if Rhode Island opens, but the state the student resides in does not?
So I think that's where some of the scenarios we talked about early in the session, if the person that asked wasn't on, would come into play. We're mindful of our current students who might be in that same situation, right? Rhode Island is open and we're doing in-person delivery of courses, and in a handful of incoming students and our returning sophomores, juniors, and seniors may be in a state where it's in a lockdown or other things that are happening with the pandemic, or students may need to stay home to take care of a family member or other circumstances. That's where this balance of us thinking in a very hybrid way this fall are the discussions we're having as a campus community over the next 2 months. So the sense of retaining some sort of online footprint, I think, is really important because of that question. It's a great question to ask, that we want to focus on students continuing their learning with us. It's important for you as incoming students. It's important for our current students to keep their progress towards their degree happening. So if they're remote, what opportunities can we think of? What internships can we engage them in? What online learning can we offer while at the same time having in-person sections? So we've seen that pretty nimbly this year. I can imagine a couple of our faculty who are teaching 15 person in the classroom and have 6 students online. and they've designed their course in a really nimble way to handle that very situation. We can't crystal ball today which of those types of opportunities we're going to need to be thinking about a couple months from now, but we're working very closely with the state about our own opportunities to open in Rhode Island, and then we'll handle other states as they go. I'd love to just give a shout out to Rhode Island. I don't know how many people on the call are Rhode Islanders or from other places, but we're a small but mighty state, and the state itself is in a really fortunate place for a couple of reasons. The testing in our state has been really an incredible thing for testing for COVID-19. This is CVS home national headquarters, and CVS has done amazing work partnering with the state, partnering with private labs to handle the testing capacity for the state. There was a Harvard study, Harvard University, you may have heard of it. It's another school, not really well known, that sits in a different state. But they did a study and assessed Rhode Island as the most ready from a testing capacity to start easing some of the social distancing conditions because of our testing capacity. So as families, it's something we are learning a lot from the state. CVS and partnerships we've had with them across the university are something that we feel really important about and are really proud of right now, that those are things that may move Rhode Island along differently in the months ahead, and something we're watching really closely and participating as a partner in.
Thanks, Brian. We have a question about financial aid. So would our financial aid change if another sibling goes to college during sophomore year or junior year?
Yes. It is not buy one, get one free, but Roger Williams has a multiple sibling discount. Each student would receive an additional 10% off of their financial aid award in the year that next sibling comes in. So we would adjust the older student award as well as the incoming student award beyond the merit scholarships and other aid they've received by an additional 10% above that.
And what about for students who have a sibling who's not going to attend, sadly not going to attend Roger with us?
So in that situation, the federal financial aid process kind of takes care of that. When you fill out your federal financial aid forms, financial need, and the grant programs versus the scholarship programs at the university realize the fact how many people are in the household, how many people in the household are in college. So there is a factoring in the federal financial aid formula for more than one in the house in college at a time. And then we look at that with our own institutional aid, the way that federal policies may look at it as well. So it's something we're sensitive to, and we look at that, but it's different when we know the monies are coming into the university.
Thanks, Brian. What is the time frame for enrollment for a summer course for an incoming freshman? If it is before an advisor is assigned, what's the process to enroll?
There is our Roger Williams summer website. There is a visiting, if you're doing it before you're enrolled at the university, there's a visiting student webpage and application process that students would just simply go through. Summer courses are a little bit more nimble. It's not a huge admissions application process like you just went through. You can register for summer classes that have space in them, the week of the class, sometimes the day before the class begins. Based on the class, and if it's just an open enrollment class that you can hop into. So it's very flexible. If that's a situation that a family's looking at, give our advising office a call, and we can advise about it even before an advisor is assigned. So we've done as panelists a great job not using a lot of Roger Williams acronyms, but I'll use one, CSAS, the Center for Student Academic Success. Their staff is equipped to help with advising before an advisor within a major is assigned to you. So I would give them a call if you're looking at a class that might start in our summer session 1 versus summer session 2, which would be that situation that you're talking about. So we have classes that have different starts all summer long. We have some classes that will meet for 10 weeks, some that will meet for 5 weeks, some that are self-paced where you register for the class and work at the pace through the curriculum more independently, like an independent study. So learning the type of online class you might want to take, the time frame you're looking to commit, the Center for Academic Success, CSAS, for those that want to learn that, is the place to call if an advisor hasn't been assigned yet.
Thank you, Brian. And then we just have a few questions around the residence experience. So what's the process like for roommate selection?
Sure. So for roommate selection, there will be a housing form that students will fill out after they've deposited and as part of the whole enrollment process over the summer. And they ask various questions related to living situations, and then roommate selection or matching up is done over the summer, as well as housing placement. And if you haven't already seen it, I'll also just mention there's a video that we posted on our website, which is a video tour of all 4 of our first year residence halls and information about what they look like. It's an awesome video, so definitely take a look at that if you want more information about the details of those residence halls.
Thanks, Amy, and thanks for throwing in that information about the video, about the residence halls, because we did get a question about the residence halls. So keep an eye out, go on the website, look at the video, and if you are interested in getting more detailed information, please connect with us offline and we will answer all your questions. Next question. So when do we need to send in health insurance information?
Not yet.
There'll be more information about that. We'll give you a whole timeline of everything you need to do, the whole checklist and everything. Once students have deposited, we'll make sure that you have all that information, and we will remind you before everything that it is due so that you don't miss any deadlines. But there's just a whole series that will happen through over the summer. So not anything you have to worry about right at this moment.
Yeah, and just on that point, with my quick answer of saying not yet, within our student portal, where students had their slate in their admissions portal to see admissions decisions online and access information, once students deposit and send in an enrollment deposit, students will see an enrollment transition checklist. That list will guide you through the steps you need to. Green check marks for the things you've accomplished, X's for the things that you haven't done yet and still need to do. And we'll remind you in advance of doing them. If you miss a deadline, we'll remind you that you missed the deadline. So we'll communicate pre and post for all the logistics of coming into the university. So from health forms to choosing dining plans to being on a tuition payment plan. There's a lot of paperwork and procedural things that we do each year. But the same way we've tried to guide you through the admissions process and communicate the bringing you into the campus community, we do, I think, a really good job of sharing the information you need when you need it, and helping give you some of those resources as you go along. You're asking a lot of great questions now, and for us, really feeling good about choosing the institution, understanding some of these choices of what the fall will look like. I've really appreciated spending the time with you all. And some of the questions about which computer to buy, what if, my son doesn't like his roommate. There's so much time. All of our orientation sessions will really help you with all those things as we continue to get to know you better, and you keep learning about us, and we get excited to learn about you and your child and what you're looking to achieve as we go through the months ahead.
So we've got a question here about how Roger Williams supports military students. Can one of our panelists speak to that?
Brian?
Sure. So military is a wide statement. We work with veteran students pretty regularly. We have some really strong relationships with the Naval Academy and the links we have right here in Newport. And our ROTC battalion, the primary commissioned officers for our ROTC program are actually at the University of Rhode Island. And they work with University of Rhode Island, Salve Regina in Newport, and our battalion at the university. So they're supported well. A lot of the students who are in ROTC live together. We support with financial aid and kind of manage that through. So the RTC pieces are ones that I can speak to, and I'm glad to answer questions about it offline. Wider military, you know, we're a Patriot and Yellow Ribbon partner for GI benefits. So if it's a military family or a parent and looking for their child to come through the university, I'm glad to answer any of the questions from a military support perspective that I can, without knowing more about how we support military. You can just bwilliams@rwu.edu. You can email me offline. I'm glad to answer more about the support questions you have.
Thanks, Brian. Will there be a separate online financial aid presentation that we can sign up for information, where we can sign up for information on payment plans, et cetera?
I'm glad to commit to that. We have a session and a PowerPoint slide deck that myself and a couple other people are a part of that we do at the in-person orientation. As long as Amy gives me permission, I'm glad to be a part of that as we break apart the day and 2 days of orientation into pieces over the summer to absolutely help you with billing, with general logistics of billing and due dates, your parent access to seeing and managing the bill and working with your child and your son and daughter on that, as well as the pieces of how financial aid is going to work. So we'll go through all the detail of understanding loans, work, scholarship, student employment, whether you have been awarded financial aid, student work study through the federal process, or what other job opportunities might exist on or off campus, private scholarships, and helping you navigate that. It's something we're passionate about doing. We have a great team that can help with all aspects of sort of that financial literacy and the pieces that you're going to need for the first year and how years 2 through 4 are going to work for you as well. So you'll see me again with a different group of teammates to do that type of presentation in the months ahead.
Yeah. And our financial aid team is also taking individual appointments. Even though we're working remotely, we can set those up for you as a video appointment or a phone call so that we can answer any of your individual questions about your award and what those payments would look like.
And so we'll cover, I think, 2 last questions. So here's number 1 of the 2. It's just a clarification about the summer courses. So if an accepted student wants to take a course over the summer in order to reduce the credit load for fall, can that tuition for the summer be part of the fall tuition, or would that summer course be an additional per credit fee?
That should be an additional fee. That's how it works currently. There may be a reduced rate that we're exploring right now for summer courses that I'll ask you to stay tuned for. So we just keep an eye on our summer website where tuition is listed, and we'll keep you posted on the rates for those there. And if someone wants to connect with me offline, again, I can let you know when we finalize that decision on the rates, but it would be a separate charge. It's a separate semester, and it's separated for our own charging as well as for federal financial aid awarding processes. So scholarships don't move into the summer term and things like that. Thanks,
Brian. Is there an app for the Admitted Students Network, or is it just on a web page?
I assume you're talking about the new online community that we just introduced to students to join. It's web-based, but individual students did get login information to create an account to join that network. So there was an email that went out about that, and that allows students to connect with current Roger Williams students, with faculty and staff across different shared interests and affinities. And so if you don't have that information, just contact the admission office and we'll help you through that process.
Thank you, Amy. I want to thank everybody for joining us this evening. It was a pleasure to be with you all. I know that there were some great conversations had, and that there's some questions for us to follow up with folks individually about. Please do continue to communicate with us. Let us know what we can do for you. I know I have some names of folks that I will follow up with and connect with folks here on campus, right? So that we can get those questions answered for you, because we want to make sure that in all the things that are going on right now, that there's no confusion that, you know, that we're contributing to. So please do keep an eye out for an email from me or another member of the admission team, or from one of our panelists. If you have questions that are still hanging out there, trust us, we will be in touch with you. I'm going to turn it over to our panelists to see if they have any last words for us. And if not, does anybody, do any of our panelists have any last words?
I would like to thank everyone for joining us tonight. And I really, really, really would love to see you all in person in August on campus. And thank you.
Thank you. President Mialis, we have a message here for you, but I'm not fluent in Greek. It says, please tell Giannis Christos Anesti.
Yes, that's Merry Christmas. The Greek Easter was last weekend, and I tried to answer, and I said the response is Alithos Anesti, which is sort of the response of someone that says Merry Christmas if you respond. But I didn't know if that came through. So thank you.
Brian and Amy, do you have any final words for us?
Just ditto. Thank you all so much for joining us. Please continue to be in touch. Let us know what you need. And we would absolutely love to be able to welcome you and your students into our community.
Oh, and by the way, I said Merry Christmas. It's Happy Easter. I'm sorry, I mixed the holidays up.
It's all Greek to me. Well, like we said, thank you so much for joining us, everyone. I want to encourage you all to keep an eye out on our accepted student website. We have more accepted student sessions that we're adding as we try to meet your needs and answer your questions, whether it's about majors or student support services or getting involved outside of the classroom. So continue to stay tuned. Amy made mention, and somebody asked a question about our Admitted Students Network. Keep an eye on your email, go in, join the network. There will be an opportunity for you to connect with faculty and current students and staff at Roger Williams to continue to get your questions answered and to begin to build community. So keep in touch with us. And lastly, keep an eye out for emails or look at your phone for calls, possibly from your admission counselor, who is your personal RWU guide, right? That person's going to be trying to connect with you and answer any questions that you have. So we hope to see you in the fall. We will be here, you will be hearing from us, and please let us know how we can continue to serve you in the months ahead. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.